My name is Alex Saw, and I'm a hip and knee surgeon in private practice as medical co-director of the Institute for Joint Restoration in Fremont, California. I was past president of the Anterior Foundation and currently serve as chief medical officer at Think Surgical and chief innovation officer at Ospitec.
So you've gone beyond being an early adopter to becoming really a true collaborator in product development. For you, what was the initial spark or the moment or experience that really inspired you to become an innovator and actively engage with the medical device industry?
Joe, orthopedics and joint replacement specifically has historically been so intertwined with product development that is a common interest among joint surgeons. But it's been traditionally limited to implant or instrument design. But in recent years, as you know, there's been an explosion of technologies and innovations available in our clinics and ORs. I'm in the heart of Silicon Valley, so I've been fortunate to be exposed to product development, new technologies as they try to find their ways in orthopedics. So engaging early with products like virtual reality products, trying to make an impact on education, or novel pain management companies in the area that are trying to aim to extend local pain management out 1 to 2 weeks. These early experiences created a lot of excitement and interest. So it's really that initial spark that you refer to and inspired me to be involved in the process of bringing products to the orthopedic market. These companies often have incredible ideas, but they are in need of orthopedic surgeons to provide them guidance on the development and market expansion of their ideas. So it's a great opportunity to be involved.
So many surgeons actually identify problems on a daily basis in their ORs, and a lot of them will just choose to adapt what they do to the limitation of existing tools. What made you decide to pursue solutions rather than just adapting?
I think, Joe, really, it's simply that it's fun. It's different. We do our daily job as orthopedic surgeons, but here's something outside of what we are maybe trained in and spent years of our life dedicated to. Here's a separate interest outside the operating room where we really have a chance to make an impact. It's certainly not for the money, and it's not because there aren't other things to do at the time. Because remember, a lot of these projects just simply might not pan out. But being involved, you really can learn a lot during the process, and it can lead to other opportunities. So, in addition, rather than waiting for someone else to come up with the idea, it's rewarding to be part of that development process. I often think of Epic as an example. I really wish an orthopedic surgeon was available during its development because I think it would be a much better product for us. But now we're sort of stuck with it in its current form. So being involved gives you the chance to make an impact. It gives you an opportunity to interact with other KOLs and educate and learn from your peers. That's what makes it so much fun.
So you frequently function as what I would call an adopter innovator. And somebody in that role, how do you define what you do as part of a product life cycle? Is it an advisor? Is it a validator? Or is it a design partner?
There are many different roles when working with industry and new companies, Joe. And really, I started as a surgeon evaluator. So I think the easiest place for someone to get started is to evaluate someone else's idea, someone else's product. That lets you generate relationships. It lets people know you're available to help validate new products. And then with experience, opportunities can become available to serve as an advisor. And with those connections and showing interest, you then may be approached by an industry or peers to collaborate on a design and development of a product. So I think it's a stepwise fashion of being involved and you get experience with each different mode of activity. So I think it's important to do each of the steps that you just laid out.
For surgeons who are interested in working with industry, but maybe lack industry connections, could you give a kind of a practical first piece of advice about a step they could take to explore those types of relationships?
I think the most important thing when someone has a good idea is to find a mentor. Find someone who can give you an objective evaluation of the idea because there are a lot of good ideas out there. But for all you know, it might have been thought of already. It might have already come and gone. It might have been failed, or maybe someone else is working on it currently. So finding a mentor with experience in that realm and get an NDA. Get an NDA, sign, obviously people have people sign that, get their mentorship, get their ideas. But do take that single evaluation with a grain of salt because it's obviously just one viewpoint, but at least you'll get a sense of potential weaknesses that might exist in your idea that you're not aware of. Often people get caught up in the excitement and have blinders on and don't realize there's some obvious right fault or issue with their idea. So it's always great to get an objective pair of eyes on the idea and then, simply do a patent search. See if anyone else has thought of the idea, see if it already exists. But that at least lets you know whether it's something you should pursue or not.
So, how does one successfully transition, say, a good clinical idea into an actionable development concept that maybe they want to work with an engineering team or a large company? What are they going to be looking for?
First, there has to be a need, and there needs to be a market for adoption. And timing is so important. A great idea at the wrong time might fail, even though the idea is a great one. So often the interest of a large company will be based on how the idea fits in their larger portfolio. So again, you might have a fantastic idea. It might have a lot of potential to have impact, but if that industry partner doesn't see it fitting into what they're currently doing, it may or may not be adopted by them. So don't be discouraged. You might have to bring your idea to the third, fourth, maybe even sixth choice of partner just due to circumstance. So don't have your sights on only one single company partner, but you want to have something where there's a need, a market need, and there's truly a market where they can adopt your idea or technology.
When one is deciding maybe not to pursue an idea or to walk away from a collaboration that isn't working, how does one go about that? What are the factors they need to be considering?
That is a very important point, Joe, because there are so many ideas and so many collaborations, and sometimes you just have to realize it's not working how you want to. So I think in the beginning of that relationship, you really want to think about setting some terms, whether it's 6 months of time or achieving certain milestones, because many great ideas die in unproductive collaborations. And it can be difficult to remove yourself from them. So having that thought process in the beginning before starting that collaboration with your partner is important. Again, setting either time limits or milestone limits, because like we said earlier, sometimes that idea will be better with a different partner or with a different choice of industry to look at it. So you really have to know when to walk away as well. It doesn't mean the idea is not good. It just means your potential collaboration is not as fruitful as one would hope. So make sure you maintain some level of control and ownership so that you have the options if the development pathway starts to go somewhere where you don't want it to.
So let's take a concrete example of one of your collaborations. Think Surgical. Can you briefly describe your involvement in the journey of its product? And specifically, what was the most valuable bit of feedback you provided as a surgeon that truly changed the product's final design or function?
As that example, Joe, working with Think Surgical has been an incredible experience because of the relationship with the company and the engineers. I just got very lucky because they happened to be headquarters in my same town, but their interest in surgeon feedback, their rapid turnaround time, it's so rewarding in both optimizing the surgeon experience when using the technology, but it also validates our input and our contributions as advisors. Some of the larger product teams, it's more difficult to experience that because it's harder to move the needle when you're on large groups. But working with an advisor with a smaller, more nimble company has been very, very rewarding. So often I gravitate towards those types of relationships.
What's the single biggest lesson you've learned from developing and testing new products that has maybe changed the way you practice medicine today?
There are a abundance of technologies and products available in our orthopedic ORs and even in our clinics now. And it's very hard to sort out which ones are going to make a meaningful impact in our current practice of medicine. I would say the technologies or products that are most impactful are the ones that speak for themselves. If a surgeon can use it, they can see the impact immediately, then adoption is going to be rapid. The new ideas that take a lot of explaining or training or have other hurdles to adoption will have real challenges to change current practice. So I think simplicity and immediate and tangible benefit are really important to new products trying to make a difference in our current practice today.
So, developing and collaborating with companies on these products is quite honestly time intensive. How do you balance your commitment to innovation with the demands of a high volume surgical practice?
It is a sacrifice. Whether it's an evaluation or development or advisory roles, it takes a lot of time. So you really have to have enough interest to justify the time commitment to be involved because it's going to take time away from other things. I probably have no balance, Joe, but I truly do enjoy it. So I enjoy working with these companies involved with these projects, but it certainly is a choice. Being a high volume surgeon certainly has its benefits because I can evaluate new technologies and products very rapidly. So there is some benefit of not being balanced, I suppose. But as of right now, it is just such a rewarding process to be involved that I choose to do it.
And how do you ensure when you're working with these new technologies that you're able to evaluate them objectively? Are there criteria that you use to distinguish between, say, a truly impactful innovation that's going to change the way you think or practice to something that is maybe just novel?
That's a great question. There is a temptation to try to use some of these new technologies because they're shiny and new, and you want to be on the forefront. But are they really making a clinical impact? That's the real important factor. And so, if I can, I always try to use a new technology in tandem with my standard technologies or protocols. That way, I can really compare them side by side. I think that's the first way I look at adopting something new. And then secondly is we have a very robust joint program involving anesthesiologists, nurses, therapists. I specifically try to not tell them when I'm using something new because I would really like to objectively hear their experience from their point of care. Is what I'm adopting making a difference on their end? Meaning, do the PACU nurses see a difference? Do the physical therapy see a difference? If I tell them I'm doing something new, I found in my experience there's some element of a placebo effect. So they're going to want to say that there's a difference. So I purposely try to not tell my team when I'm introducing something new so I can get their honest feedback.
So, to other practicing surgeons, maybe who've identified a solvable problem and are now considering the path of, say, product development or starting a company, from your perspective, what's an essential or maybe the most essential piece of advice that you would give them to set up for success?
To embark upon this process, I really recommend get help. Have advisors. It's generally a team effort. As much as you're tempted to want to do it yourself because it's a great idea, you want to hold on to it yourself, it's unlikely to be successful unless you really surround yourself with good people. So whether it's a collaborator, an advisor, a patent lawyer, of course, or others, you're going to have help because it's a very long and expensive process. So you have to find the right team, the right partners, because that's really critical to the success of product development.
The path of a new product from idea to market is really full of many hurdles: regulatory, funding, skepticism from the surgeons that it would be targeted towards. What should a surgeon prepare for, maybe emotionally or professionally, before embarking on this sort of journey?
I think anyone involved with this would tell you it's going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. Because as you said, Joe, there are so many different elements of bringing an idea to market that some portions will go very well and some will be incredibly frustrating or time consuming or costly. So just knowing and being prepared that it's going to be physically and emotionally a roller coaster, from filing a patent to funding to bringing on partners, it's simply it's time and it's money. So be prepared that it may not succeed. I think that's one thing. But if you really have a great idea, have patience, be persistent, know who your good partners are, and at the same time know when to abandon an idea. So it's just having that balance of what's realistic.
Is there a common mistake that you see new surgeon innovators making? And if so, how can they avoid it? And I'll also ask, is there a commonality to the successful surgeon innovators that you see? And how can people foster that?
That's a great question. I think a common mistake for new surgeon innovators are sitting on an idea. Timing really is everything. So if you have a great idea, start the process and look, do a patent search, see if anyone else has come up with the idea or if they're working on it, because odds are very high that if you've thought of a great idea, probably someone has thought about it already before. And if they haven't patented already, they're probably working on it right now. So timing is really key. I would say move on it and really try to bring it to market as quickly as you can with the help of advisors, of course. Because again, if you thought of it, probably someone else has too. So that's probably the first common mistake of young innovators. And in terms of a commonality of those who are successful, I think it's those who have learned from their predecessors, those who have who have reached out to mentors, those who have reached out to people in the industry, because there are so many people who have already, you want to recreate the wheel. There are so many people out there who've already been along the same path. So I think the really successful surgeon innovators are those who are collaborating with others who have also been successful, because that way they can pave the way for you to bring your product to market.
Looking ahead, from your perspective, is there an emerging trend or idea that you're most excited about right now? And if so, how do you plan to be involved in shaping its development or in it being brought to market?
I think right now it's really the AI technology. It's everywhere. You can't turn your head around and not see AI somewhere. So it's coming. It's already here, but it's gonna be coming even more. It's gonna be everywhere in our operating rooms and in our clinics. So I think it's really important for us as surgeons to be involved. Again, similar to that epic analogy, I think it's important we're there during the development to make sure that these products are developed with what our needs are, so that it can be most effective for us. So rather than waiting for someone else to force it upon us, surgeons really should have an active role in shaping this technology. So whether it's AI helping make decisions in the OR, how we're doing our procedures, or AI choosing which patients are surgical patients or how to treat them, post-op in our clinics, AI is here, and that's really something where we need to be involved.
What continues to motivate you today, both in your clinical practice and for these purposes, your innovation journey?
Really, it's fun and rewarding. We all love operating. We're all orthopedic surgeons, but you can only do so many joints replacements in a day. You can only do so much clinical work. So it's nice to have a hobby outside of the operating room. And it's a great way to be involved with industry, but also with other KOLs to discuss ideas and to learn from them. For those of us not in academics, it's a great opportunity, again, to engage with our peers and to really make a difference by hopefully developing a product or technology that will help our patients, but also hopefully developing something that will help our surgeons colleagues do a better job as well.
So, our series is titled From Idea to Market. What does that phrase mean to you personally at this stage of your journey as a leading surgeon innovator?
I love the series and idea to market and love hearing all the perspectives of all the other guests you've had, Joe. And really, what it makes me think of is it's a journey, right? Great ideas are plentiful. And if you think about Shark Tank at the Anterior Foundation meetings, think about how much excitement and interest it generates. I think all of us get very excited about the possibilities of where technology or new products can bring us, in our professional lives in the clinics and the ORs. I think from idea to market is really a great concept of how to help surgeons make that journey together and how to really make an impact on our surgeons, colleagues, and on our patients. It's just something great to be involved with. And the Anterior Foundation just one a great example of how to make a difference working together.
Tell me a little bit more about the AHF Shark Tank and how it can impact both the surgeon's involvement in innovation, but also the surgeon as innovator.
The Shark Tank at the Anti-Hip Foundation has been one of the most popular segments of our annual meeting, and it has been fantastic to be a part of, whether as a surgeon presenting an idea or just being in the audience and getting to evaluate it. Because the way the setup is, like Shark Tank on television, we have surgeon innovators presenting their ideas, but also leading industry decision makers who are evaluating those technologies. And so you learn so much just by seeing how great ideas may have benefit or may have some difficulties, right? Coming to market. It might be the world's best idea, but it's just too difficult to spread across adopters, or maybe doesn't have the return on investment, or doesn't have the ability to generate, real value for these companies. And so it's really interesting to hear that perspective. And so it is often the most exciting part of the meeting because everyone is involved and interested. And I can remember some of the prior sessions we've had where we've seen technologies, really revolutionary technologies. I'm thinking of advanced scanners or Visi now, Joe, that you'll see at AUKUS and Academy, and see these basically trackerless technologies that can follow the knee throughout space and help potentially with robotic surgery. But it's interesting to see it at Shark Tank 3 years ago, and then see where it's developed each year since and where it's going. So that's just one example of where AHF has really led the way in bringing new technologies and offering surgeons an opportunity to bring their ideas to market. So I look forward to that every single year.
Is there an advantage to doing this sort of Shark Tank in front of an audience, meaning in front of the participants of the conference, versus just having these conversations in a back room with an executive somewhere?
I think these Shark Tanks are a great opportunity because number one is it's free to them. Often to try to get this type of information or feedback, you're paying someone or taking a lot of time to try to organize. But here you have the benefit of the audience who can help evaluate your product, but also those 4 to 5 industry leaders who are going to give you a real honest feedback of how good the idea is and how likely it is to make an impact on market. Because remember, those are two very different things. You can have a great idea, but it just isn't applicable to how the market is today. So these good ideas have to be profitable. I mean, that's the bottom line. And getting this kind of honest feedback from 4 industry leaders is really rewarding and unique.
So the sharks in our Shark Tank are, as you said, industry leaders, and they're typically higher ups in larger companies. What is it? What For surgeon innovators who are looking to bring their own company to market and produce their own product, and not necessarily sell or license to a large company? Is there still value for them?
100%. I think because these industry leaders, they've been there before. They know and have seen many of these ideas, and they've probably passed on ideas that are very similar to what's being presented. But they will explain why. They'll explain what the challenges were in similar type products that they previously evaluated. So I think it's definitely important to get that perspective. And then secondly, it's also important to understand what these large industry partners have in their portfolio, why a great idea might not fit in what they're looking to do today. Meaning your idea might be a great idea, but if these large industry partners see the industry moving a different direction, and if that does not include your idea, it might be important to realize that the environment is changing. Your idea is still a good one. It's unfortunately just not where the market is going. So it's a unique perspective to be able to hear from these very important executives and decision makers at large companies of what they see the market is today and tomorrow.
Alex, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, Joe. Thank you so much.